This is the scorecard model, and again, this is something that doesn't take 6 months. It takes, in some cases, 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the richness and the availability of your data. Uh, it's not just a data-based approach, though. Again, anecdotally, you got to walk the floor, you got to talk to people, you got to see the site as well. But we'll be focusing on this tool and what we're able to do. And I think as you're able to build and develop these tools yourselves internally, this will help. Especially, you may not have external benchmarks of some of your competitors, but you may have internal benchmarks of some of your sites, especially if you're in a large network. So navigating the tool here in terms of what we built to accommodate this, one is getting the data model set up and setting up our control panel. So you can see we've got, in this particular case, a warehouse in the produce wholesale industry. And so we're able to look at different currencies, whether it's USD, the euro, Canadian dollar specifically, and you're actually able, we'll show a little bit later, this tool basically ingests the top 50, 70, 100 KPIs within your organization and bumps that up against a competitor set. We've got hundreds of KPIs in here so that you know where you stand with regard to your warehouse. And then you click a button and it spits out a 30, 40-page report with everything cleaned up and all the opportunities outlined there. So I think these are some of the tips and tricks to look at your sites in a rapid manner and find what the opportunity is. And that's the basis of this tool. So again, we're not spending 4 weeks building the PowerPoint to go to management. It comes as a result of the data that's already in there. However, every site is a little bit different in that you're likely going to be interested in different things. So in a particular demographic, you might be really interested in the people metrics. So keeping our people happy, not just pay and comp, but also mental health and how do they feel about the culture of the organization. And we've got some data actually on what that could be or what that is in some cases. We've got comparables here for lots of niche industries, whether it's retail, grocery, or produce wholesale, or consumer packaged goods, or many others, as well as small, mid-cap, and large sites, which are different organizations in many cases. You're able to automatically change some of the weightings. So if the financial performance of the organization is a little less critical than the operational or the people stats, we can change those. We can update that so that at the end of the day, you've got a model or a scorecard that's comparable to consistent benchmarks, but custom to what's important for your particular site. So now we get to choose KPIs. So in this case, like I mentioned, the tool's got about 125 pretty tactical KPIs available across all domains within the 4 walls, and then some inbound and outbound. And so we can choose what's important to us. It could be, I want to know how many cases per hour we're picking in the freezer for ice cream, because this is a particular hot button issue for us. And, we're only getting out 46 cases, but we're paying, 1.5 times pay for those conditions. So, and we're constantly late to the dock. So it could be that we pick and choose some of these. It could be that you don't actually have some of these metrics. We just turn those off. But you do have the ability to choose a fairly enormous set of measurements here for KPIs. One of the cool things about this too is, especially, and this isn't applicable for everything, but for a number of these, whether it's turnover, cost per case, the ratio of shared service support, average EBITDA per employee, there are definitely some indicators here where if there is a gap between you and competitor, we can actually automate the business case if we know a few key things. How big is your site? What are our hourly pay? What's your EBITDA structure? What's your financial structure? What's your operating expenses? What's your revenues? And so we're able to take some of those and automatically generate a rough business case, low, mid, high, based on how we stand. So we can take a lot of that work out and vet that with the finance rep. And so as we ingest all these KPIs, we see how you're doing. We can say, looks like you've got $5 million in EBITDA, and we can spread that across a couple of years in terms of project work to actually achieve that. So very cool having the ability to automate some of the business case elements of that. And finally, in terms of some of the summary outputs, we can actually summarize what those areas are, both anecdotally and with some of these metrics. So this is just an example of a slide where we can show the opportunity, but also the quality of data. So in some cases, you may not trust portions of your data, whether it's on velocity or cases picked. And so therefore, we'll take it with a grain of salt and maybe take the low end of the cost savings. So we're able to, again, create some portrayals. And like I mentioned earlier, you press a button and these things start to pop out automatically, these charts and graphs and portrayals to show where you're at versus comp. So I think this is definitely, again, one of those kinds of tools that, takes the speed of maybe doing a 3 or 4 month assessment or going through a longer term thing and doing it in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks. And so at the end of this, you press the button, you choose what's important to you, and a 40-page presentation spits out, here are the 21 opportunities that are worth $6 million in EBITDA on the low end. And this is how you're going to get there. This is who should do what. And we go and we implement. And so, again, having the ability to do this rapidly and focus more on the implementation rather than all the study and the analysis is quite critical. And that's why we've got a tool that seems to be working quite well with our client set.